And what should be viewed by everyone in MAHA as a win, and we certainly needed one. Thanks to the work of our next guest, Dr. Peter McCullough, the Centers for Disease Control recently this on their website saying, quote, "The claim that vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that vaccines cause autism." Now, this is a major change, not just in policy, okay, but in the paradigm of the Centers for Disease Control, which for more than 20 years has maintained that there were no links whatsoever between vaccines and autism. In fact, the CDC admitted that its previous stance on vaccines was born out of the fact that they simply ignored real scientific studies showing there are linkages between autism and vaccinations. Dr. Peter McCullough is the Chief Scientific Officer for the Wellness Company, and he is the man that we believe is responsible for this important change in policy at the CDC. It's good to see you, Dr. McCullough, and we say that because it was a mere, 3 weeks ago you were on this show talking about a report that you and others had released via, a study, your study showing that there is an undeniable link between vaccines and autism. And now, a mere 3 weeks later, the CDC does this. The timing, I think, is quite notable. Dr. McCullough, good to see you, and congratulations.
Well, congratulations to you for covering it, Emerald, on the absolute truth. You're right. The McCullough Foundation published a conclusive report on the Determinants of Autism, October 27th, 2025, on the European preprint server. It's already had over 200,000 downloads and reads. It was sent to HHS, the CDC, Robert F. Kennedy, and others in the public health agencies. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, there's an about face on this linkage between childhood vaccination and autism. Now, our report is comprehensive. It's the most comprehensive document that exists on the topic. And in that report, we summarized there were 29 studies that failed to find an association. All of those studies were flawed. They didn't have unvaccinated control groups. None of the studies, interestingly, interviewed the parents, examined the vaccine records, or examined the children to see if they really had autism or not. Now there's an avalanche of studies since 2004 that indicate mechanistically, ecologically, or even in case series that, in fact, a combination of vaccines given all at once in a susceptible child can be a trigger for the development of autism. I think it's interesting the CDC did this silently yesterday, no press release, and now today mainstream media, including the CNN, has turned on the CDC, accusing it of putting up on its website false information, which is not the case. We believe the McCullough Foundation report is the central driver for this change.
Well, let's be clear. The news, like CNN is often news brought to you by Pfizer, right? Big pharma, and I found that out in a hard way when I left corporate media. That was part of the whole issue with my ouster. But Dr. McCullough, let's get to what the implications of this will be. For decades, many mothers have just gone to the doctor, immediately agreed to do the regular childhood vaccination schedule because they were assured by their doctors everything was fine. I know that's what they tried to tell me, though I had already done some research and I wasn't buying it. And there was no warning from our public health institutions for these mothers to contradict their doctors or to question otherwise. But now that the CDC, though quietly, has done this, what will be the implications for the future of childhood vaccination in the schedule?
Well, the first thing the CDC has said now, following the McCullough Foundation report, is it's going to do its own report, which is long overdue. $9 billion agency, 12,000 employees, many competent scientists like myself, and they can't generate a report over decades. Kennedy in place at HHS for a year, and they can't get it done. Well, we're glad we stimulated them, and we need that report. I think things will move very quickly. I can tell you a report in JAMA Open Network by Vesuvian and colleagues indicates 60% of young parents like you, Emerald, they're not going to have their kids go through the full schedule. They're going to sit down and have a conversation with their doctors. Some will follow the World Council for Health guidance on this 2023, which indicates it's safer to wait on vaccines. There's a vulnerable period, kind of ages 0 to 4 years, where the immune system and the neurologic system is developing. That's where all the damage appears to occur with encephalitis and this post-encephalitic autism-like syndrome and related disorders, by the way, ADHD, tics, and epilepsy. Beyond 4 years, far safer if vaccines are given individually, far safer. Then, of course, if the overall burden is reduced, I don't think every child needs every single shot on the schedule.
It's interesting that we're talking about this now. I had just taped for a different show this week, a panel show called Her Take that'll air on Tuesday on a different platform. And one of the topics of conversation that did come up, though it wasn't originally scheduled, was about the childhood vaccinations, and particularly the MMR. And what I have noticed, now I was the only one on the panel who was critical of the childhood vaccination schedule and still the MMR. I have many mother friends who that was the one they noticed the change in their child was after the 12-month MMR. One mother broke down on me crying. Dr. McCullough saying, look, I didn't know what I was doing, but I didn't know that there could be an effect, but I noticed immediately the regression after the MMR. She had a fever and she never tried to say mama again. And that was just heartbreaking to hear. But I have noticed a narrative that is forming. It's kind of an old narrative, but it's one that's being recycled, and we keep seeing it in other media. It was used in, I heard it then. And that is that there are measles outbreaks all over the United States. And it's because of the hesitancy for the MMR, that the MMR is so effective. And I assume that will be one of the narratives that will be used in relation to this new news from the CDC.
Yeah, I believe there'll be a lot of fear mongering about these diseases of yesteryear. Now, the WHO reports per year there's 600,000 cases of measles worldwide. There's a lot of countries that don't vaccinate for it. And in the United States, we run 1,000 to a couple thousand cases. There should be no deaths due to measles with proper treatment in today's modern healthcare. And on top of that, the measles vaccine isn't perfect. I'm a good example. I've had multiple measles shots. Even as an adult, I took MMR shots because I was asked to be a doctor on staff and through my training. I never developed any antibodies to measles. I'm sure I'd be like Ben Edwards, who's my colleague out in West Texas. Ben took all these shots. He still got measles anyway when he, came in contact with people with measles. So the vaccine isn't perfect. I can tell you what should happen is when our CDC does outbreak investigations, they need to list who took the vaccines. Right now, their commentary on the measles outbreaks are 95% of cases are unvaccinated or vaccine status unknown. I can tell you that's unacceptable. They have a huge budget. They have tons of investigative officers. They should report who is taking the vaccine and still getting measles. I think they don't report it because they don't want to tell people that the measles vaccine is imperfect.
I think so as well. And in one of the most recent high-profile cases down in Texas, they got a lot of national attention. We found out that there was a lot of misinformation around what was being reported, and it wasn't exactly as it was being reported in the news. In fact, CHD went and interviewed that family and found out a lot more.